Welcome to Shenkman Education. My name's Marty Shenkman. This video clip's a little different. I got an email, you may have gotten it too. I think it's someone selling something. And it was sent to me during National Make-A-Will Month. Didn't know we had a National Make-A-Will Month. So here are some statistics that I think are worth talking about, because when people talk about estate planning, this shows how a lot of people really haven't done what they want. I think these statistics are awful, but grossly understate how bad it is. So they say roughly 96% of Americans know what a will is. Who are the other 4%? Kids. But almost half don't have one. So you know what a will is and you don't have one. Why? 41% say they don't think they need one. Well, if you have, it's what happens in an RV park. People drive RVs. If you have minor children, you need to use a will to appoint a guardian to be in charge of your child if you die. No one has a guarantee they're not going to die while their kids are young. So if you have a child, you've got to set up a will. Some states, but I'm actually not familiar with which, if any, might permit you to use a different document than a will, but why not just do it in a will? You may need to address a guardian for the property of the child or have a trust, and a guardian for the person of the child, the person to make personal decisions, school, health, etc. If you have a minor child, you definitely need a will. I don't know why half the people think they don't need one. If you own assets, unless you know every asset is going to pass by beneficiary designation or title, so you have an IRA and you list your brother Joe is the beneficiary, he'll get it when you die. But maybe that's not what you want. But a beneficiary designation can avoid having to have a will for that asset. You can use account titles. So you have a bank account at XYZ Bank and it says POD or pay on death to Jane, your sister. That works. The problem with all that is, how do you possibly know and keep track of every single asset and what happens when something changes? That's why you want a will. 31% they say they don't know where to start. Well, hopefully we're going to give you guidance in all the different video clips that we're creating, because that's our goal, which is to give real information, not the sales pitches and the silliness you hear online, to help people do this. You can get a checklist online, ask AI, what's involved in a will. You need to name a guardian, name a personal representative or an executor to handle your assets. You decide where your assets go. You state where your assets go. You have alternatives if something happens. You do it in a broad, holistic way like we've talked about on other video clips. 27% think it's too costly. You know, you can spend very little getting a will online. It may or may not, depending on what service you use and what you know, be better than nothing. In some cases, it's worse than nothing. But it's dramatically less costly in many cases than an attorney. On the other hand, I've used some of these online services, and when you add up what they charge for a will and a health proxy and a power of attorney and a living will, you can end up paying as much online as you would hiring a lawyer. Were you better off hiring a lawyer? Maybe. It depends how good the lawyer is. I'm not being vague to be funny, but things are uncertain. That's why the real key is being proactive and making sure things make sense and work for you. 24% feel they have no time to put one together. Let me make a general comment on all this. If you don't take the time to plan your estate, the cost to your loved ones could be dramatically greater than the time or cost for you to take and put something together. Planning is critical. And by the way, no plan, no will, no trust, that's also a plan, and it ain't a good one. So you really want to take a look at that. And again, when people are concerned about costs, I understand that. If you're hiring a lawyer, ask the lawyer up front, listen, my resources are tight, I can't devote a lot, I got college bills to pay, whatever it is, how can I do this the most cost effectively? I tell many people, consult with the professional, your wealth advisor, your attorney, your accountant, get their advice, pay them for their time. Advice is valuable. Then decide what the least costly way is you can get your documents done. But get the guidance first. That's really critical. There's another statistic that kind of knocked my socks off. 46% of people expect to get a light inheritance, but only 38%, but 38% have not fully discussed it with the person leaving it to them. I think that's real gutsy, nervy, inappropriate. You're going to go to Aunt Nellie and say, hey, Aunt Nellie, I know you're leaving me money. I want to talk about it. I don't see that done very often. In fact, what I've told people, if you have an elderly parent or family member, benefactor that's leaving you money, it could be very advantageous to talk to them, because are they leaving it in trust or outright? You want everything in trust, in a well-designed trust. But if you approach somebody kind of asking like, hey, what are you leaving me by way of money? What a turnoff. They may just disinherit you because you asked. Start the conversation by asking, hey, I'm concerned about you. You're on in years, you're in your 70s, 80s, whatever. Did you do a living will stating your healthcare wishes? Do you have a healthcare proxy where you point somebody to make sure your medical decisions are done the way you want? Can I help? Do it caring about them, not asking about your money. And by the way, this is so common with the stuff, polite term I'm using, that comes through the internet and these email blasts from all these different sources. I would never have the audacity to ask somebody how much money you're leaving me. And I'd be very careful if I were you doing that to somebody, because what a way to turn somebody off. 78% of people say the current economic climate makes them concerned about protecting their assets. Every economic climate should make you concerned. And getting a will ain't gonna help. Yes, getting a will may reduce probate costs because you don't have an intestacy, which is when you die without a document. By the way, if you die without a will, the state law default provisions are gonna govern what you want. You know, 50 years ago when the Cleaver family was the norm, maybe that was kinda okay. It was never okay. Nowadays, with a minority of families being intact first marriage with kid families, state law default rules could be very different than what you want. It's really important you get these documents. But the current economic climate bothers you, is what the statistic says. And this is why I'm always so leery of what I get online, read online, and these emails. You got to talk to a financial advisor. What's your asset allocation? Are you invested in a reasonable way? Are you reallocating? Do you have insurance? Do you have cash reserves for a downturn? Your will's not going to address that. You need a will, you need an estate plan, you also need a financial plan as the bedrock of your estate plan. You need to look at insurance if it's appropriate for your plan. Life insurance, disability, what is your circumstances? Get coverage, liability coverage. And this doesn't even address asset protection. So just to wrap up, I tried to go through these statistics in an email I got. I don't think they're particularly helpful, but they're a good launching pad to have discussions about points that are really important to your planning. Be very careful to never suspend your common sense and sort of reasoning ability when you see things online or you do research. A lot of the information could be unhelpful and even misleading. And what bothers me the most about this, which is the same thing as these questions that are being advertised all over, do you need a trust or a will? Well, you may need both, you may need neither, but you need a comprehensive plan, and that's what you start with, not whether you need a will or a trust. Hopefully this has given you some guidance and some general ideas, and if you're one of those people that doesn't have a document, a will or other estate planning documents, it'll get you off the starting blocks to get started, because you've got to get started. Thank you for joining me, and keep in mind that all the information on this video clip and website is for educational purposes only. Don't take any legal action without appropriate professional guidance, and for more information, see shenkmaneducation.com. Thank you.